Hello everybody, welcome to Totally Tabled. My name is Shaggy, and today we're doing something a little bit different. You see, I thought it might be interesting to show the process that I go through in learning a heavy game, like this one, the newest Lacerda Heavy Euro Speakeasy. If you're a Totally Tabled member, you can watch a video of me setting this thing up. It's a half an hour video, so it was quite a process. And in that video, I mentioned that I might do a little thing here where I sort of show myself learning the game, going through the rules for the first time, and, just how I sort of approach it. And several members suggested that they'd like to see something like that. So I thought that could be fun, mix it up a little bit. Now, don't worry, I'm going to be doing a normal playthrough after this video. So if this is too boring for you, you can just wait and watch that other video. Now, there's 3 bits of information that I'm looking for as we learn this game. First, I want to get a sense of the overall round structure, right? I want to get the big picture. The second thing I want is, what can I do on my turn? What are the actions? What are the decisions that I'm going to be taking on my turn? And because this is a Lacerda game, there's one extra thing I want to look for. All of his games have, how do I want to describe this? A kind of central core objective or goal that the players are trying to do. In Kanban, it's about getting those tested designs, I think they're called. In Vinos, you're producing your wines. There's always this core thing, and it's always multiple steps, multiple interlocking steps. And so getting a sense of what that is and understanding the steps involved of achieving that, that's an important part of learning any Lacerda game. So those are the 3 things I'm looking for, and I don't want to learn anything else. Everything outside of those, I don't even want to know about at this point. So I'm going to be skipping some sections of the rulebook probably to get to those core ideas, and then we'll go back and fill it in. Okay, let's get started, because this is going to be probably a pretty long process. Now, I'm not going to just read the rulebook, because, you guys can read. I'll just summarize what I'm reading and put it in my own words. And now, right after we go from the setup pages, we go to this key concepts page. Let's just browse this really quickly. Now, I love this thematic text up here. It says the 18th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, ratified on January 16th, 1919, prohibited the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors. By the terms of the amendment, the country went dry 1 year later on January 17th, 1920. Yeah, so in this game, we're playing, mobster bosses with speakeasy business in Manhattan during Prohibition. And to win the game, we just need the most money. That's what it's all about, getting the most money. Okay, so some of the key concepts here are operations level. That's what these tracks are for. These are our operation level tracks. Each one does something specific. I think we'll get into that later. Let's not worry about that right now. We have family members. Right here. They have 2 jobs. They can go to the docks, and I'm not 100% sure what the docks are about, but they can also protect our buildings. And this is a good thing to know. So there's 2 ways that a building can be operating. So right now we have our stills right there. And because there's no police officer there, that's an operating stills. If there were to be a police officer in the same region, then that still is not operating. That's when we would need it to be a protected building. Now that stills is operating again. So as long as there's not a police officer there, it's operating no matter what. But if a police officer moves in, then we need a family member there to protect it. And there's a golden rule here that a non-operating building is the same as a non-existent building. So if a building's not operating, you can't do anything with it. Now it's talking about associated mobsters, which, these mobsters over here, we can actually associate with one of them. They can come onto our board, and then we can use their strength to help protect our buildings. We'll get into that later. We don't need to worry about that right now. And then goons here. Goons are used. They can provide either one attack strength or defense strength by just spending them. And then here's an important one, laundering money. So there's a sense that we have 2 piles of money. We have the money that's in our pocket, and then we have the money that's in our safe. And I'm going to put my safe money in this little cup here. But the game comes with these screens that you would use like in a multiplayer game. We can spend the money in our safe, but we have to launder it at a 2-to-1 ratio. So basically, we have to spend double the money from our safe to pay for anything. And because money is victory points, we maybe want to try to do that as little as possible. Okay, so those are some basic concepts. Again, we can come back to that. We don't need to worry too much about that right now. All right, here's what I'm looking for. This is the overview that I was needing. The game is divided into 4 acts. And this is great. I sort of knew this, but it's nice to see it here in print. This is a worker placement game. So that's great. We're on solid footing here. I'm sure anyone watching this has played many worker placement games. Our capos here are workers. We're going to be sending them out to those characters that are up there on the top of the board. They're going to go, quote unquote, talk to those persons of interest, is what they're called. And when we do that, we'll get to take the actions that are underneath them. Each of those persons of interest can only speak to one capo. The exception to that is that third space, that's the restaurant, and as many capos can go there as you want. At the beginning of each act, we'll return our capos, but here's the tricky part. In the first act, we have all 4 of our capos, but then we're going to lose one. So for acts 2 and 3, we'll only have 3 capos, 3 worker placement actions. Then we lose 2 of them. In Act 4, we only have 1. So that's 4 plus 3 plus 3 plus 1. That's 11 worker placement actions for the whole game. So an act is pretty simple. We return our capos. We'll then take turns playing out our capos, taking those worker placement actions. When that's done, there's something called the Lucky Luciano phase. And it's divided into 3 parts: Mob War, Cops Patrol Manhattan, and Payout Zone Control. Don't know what any of those things are, but we'll figure that out later. And then at the very ending of the game, there's a final scoring. And if we look at the board up there, we can see it shows the capos 4, 3, 3, 1. It's right there on the board. Let's look at a player round. We're going to be going in turn order, and there's the turn order track right there below the restaurant. On your turn, follow these steps. So the first thing we get to do is we can gain the benefit of a helper card that we have in front of us. And that's what these are here. So if we have one of those, we can play it. We can gain the benefit that's shown in the middle there. It's a 1 use, but we keep it. So we just keep it behind our screen or whatever, but we can't use it again. So we may do that. Then we must play one of our capos to one of the persons of interest and take the action. And then once we're done with that, we get to draw one of these operation cards. And I've moved the decks over here because we're going to be drawing from these a lot. And they're supposed to be face up. Now we're talking about turn order. It looks like the restaurant is where we change turn order. That's one of the actions you can do at the restaurant. When that happens, turn order will be adjusted at the end of the round. Every casino that you have will pay out $5 in a 2-player game, 3 in a multiplayer game, and then you just switch the turn order. Okay, now we have a bunch of description of the Lucky Luciano phase. I'm going to skip all of this. I don't care about the Lucky Luciano phase. I care about worker actions. So we're skipping all of that. We'll come back. Now we have common actions and effects. So this is getting us familiarized a little bit with the icons that are in the game. And this is an important thing, right? Anytime you play a heavy game, it's going to be icon heavy. It's like an entire new language that you have to learn. Now, luckily, the artist for this game is Ian O'Toole, and he's one of the best at doing this. So we're in good hands. These icons should be relatively easy to understand. Let's quickly go over this again, because this is still not player actions. This is not exactly what I want to learn right now, but this might help us a little bit. So let's just briefly go over this. So the first one here is play one operations card. That's that icon right there. So we can just play one of these cards from our hand, play it face up into the matching region here. And for each one, you're getting like a special bonus on top, and then an action you get to take on the bottom. And each card has a specific action associated with it. The red cards are the VIP room cards. The action associated with that is getting protection, which is, using your family member and putting it on a building. The party card, which is the purple one, that's about selling barrels from buildings. The orange one is the stills card. That's about producing barrels. And the green one is the fleet card. That's about picking up and delivering barrels. And remember, I was talking about that sort of core objective, the core goal. I think we're getting a hint of it there. Producing barrels, picking up and delivering barrels, and then selling barrels. I have a feeling those are going to be kind of the core actions that we're trying to take. All right, let's go through a couple of these icons quickly. So we can increase our operations level tracks. That's like that marker there. Or it might show a specific track that it's letting us go up. And this is showing us that, our infamy track is just the sum of all of our tracks here. Right? We start at 5 because we have each one at level 1. And the maximum for each one of these tracks is 5, so the maximum infamy is 25. Okay, the producing barrels icon is like what we have here on our city tile. You must have an operating stills on the main board in order to perform that action. So it's our stills that's producing the barrels. And the number of barrels that you produce when you take that action is equal to where you are on your stills track here. So you can see at the bottom, it shows 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. The selling barrel icons is like this one right here. To sell barrels, they must be next to your operating buildings. And the number that you can sell is equal to your party track. You can see at level 1, we could sell 2 barrels, then still 2, 3, 3, 4. The price that we sell them at is based on our infamy track. So right here, you can see at the beginning, we're going to be selling for either $10 or $15 a barrel. If it's at a speakeasy, it's $10. If it's at one of our nightclubs or a casino, then it's $15. And as we move up the infamy track at different levels, we get to spend more. We get to gain more when we sell. Yeah, so once we get to level 12 on the infamy track, it goes up to $15 and $20. That icon there is for gaining goons. You can hire one or more goons, and you just spend the money based on the space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This first one is free. Okay. So you can hire as many as you can afford. And then we have this symbol right there. That's gain a family member. And you add it to your VIP area, which is these spots right here. But the number of family members that you can hold in those spots is equal to this track, your red VIP track. See at the bottom, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. Oh, okay, and when you gain a family member, you can either put them in your VIP area or you can send them to the docks, like we did with that character as part of setup. You can put them anywhere there, and then you get the benefit that's shown there on the right, depending on where you place them. Great, okay, so that was a little recap of some of the icons. Now we get to go into these locations, and we can see what the worker placement actions actually are. And this is the stuff that I really wanted to focus on. Now, the way it works is if you look up there, some of the actions are in like a little box. That action applies to whichever person in that location you go to. Whichever one you go to, you're going to take that action. The ones that aren't in the box just apply to that specific person. So for instance, right there, if you go to the lady on the left, you'll get one of those books. But if you go to the dude on the right, you'll get, that symbol is to gain a helper card. But then whichever, either one you go to, you're going to do that bottom thing, whatever that is. Great. Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. We're going to go through these one by one and learn exactly what we get to do at each of these worker placement locations. Since this is a worker placement game, that's going to be the heart of learning exactly how to play the game. Once we get through all this, we'll probably have 90% of the game down. So that space that I just pointed out, we're going to start there. That's the Contractor Office. Like I said, either gain a book or gain a helper card. And you resolve these from top to bottom. So you would do that first, and then whichever one you go to, you'll take this action, which is to open a speakeasy or stills, or take over a mobster speakeasy. And you get to do that twice. If you're deciding to open a speakeasy or a stills, you just take one of them here, just like we did at part of setup, putting out our stills. Our stills is already out, but you'd pay the cost at the bottom. You put it in any empty space, right? So we could put it here if we wanted to. You would get this, put it on your board. and then you'd get the benefit that's shown below. It says here that you may open a speakeasy or a still in a district containing a cop, but it will not be operating until you protect it with a family member, which is what we talked about before. Now, we may not place, obviously, in these districts. Those districts are closed. So we could do that twice, or optionally, we could take over a mobster speakeasy, which are these red ones that are on the board. In order to do that, you must attack with a greater strength. So the way you measure your strength is you look at your strength track. Right now we're at 1. You can then discard goons, which will add 1. So we could discard this goon to get to 2. And then if you are associated with a mobster, you can choose to pay them to add that mobster's strength to your own. So say we had this mobster here, we could spend 4 in order to add, actually you flip it, to add 3 strength to our attack. And they have a note here that you can't attack a mobster speakeasy that you're associated with. And that's why we have this marker. So if we took that mobster, we'd put that in District 15 to show that we can't attack over there. That makes sense. You wouldn't want to attack a mobster you're friends with. Now, the defense of the mobster speakeasy is just the number in the gun, right? So 4, 3, 4, 3 up there. And you have to exceed it, right? The attack always has to exceed. It's not good enough to just equal. So as long as all of that is good, you can just remove the speakeasy, put your own in. You still have to pay for it. And then it's just the same thing. Gain the token, gain the benefit below. And it's also saying that if you have more than 4 city tokens at the end of your turn, then you pick the ones you want to keep and you discard the others to this middle area here. You can just discard it to any one of these 3 spots in the middle. Whether there's a token there or not, you just stack up the tokens. And then the last little bit of information here is the speakeasy upgrade bonus. If you remove all of the speakeasies and or still from a section here, they're sort of in these 3 groups, then you can use that as a discount for when you are upgrading to either a nightclub or a casino. And the discount is just the cost of the building. So one thing I like to do is just to go through the action physically, because that just helps me remember it. So one of the actions we could do, this could be the first action we do, is we take one of our capos. Maybe we'll go to that guy. We'll pick out one of those help cards. And then maybe we'll take this. We could build right there. We would get this. That would be our first build. We would get this benefit, which would let us move one of our markers up. You know, maybe we move up this one, and that would increase our infamy. And then we could do a second one. We can pick any of these, you know, we could pick this one, and maybe we come down here. Maybe we go next door. I mean, we could go all the way over here if we want. Maybe we'll come down here, grab that one. So there we go. That's very simple. Great. Let's move on. All right, we're going next door to the city planning office. Here, the action is either opening a nightclub or casino, upgrading one of your speakeasies to a nightclub or a casino, or taking over a mobster speakeasy. Okay, cool. So this is basically just like opening a speakeasy, but you have a choice. You can either just straight up open a nightclub or a casino, pay the cost, it's very expensive. The only restriction is that you can only have 1 nightclub and 1 casino in each zone. That's why we only have 3 of each. So you can't have 2 nightclubs in one zone or 2 casinos in one zone. They have to spread out. Other than that, you just build them just like the speakeasy, get the benefit, or instead you can upgrade a speakeasy that you already have out into a nightclub or a casino. And that's when, if you've cleared an area, you can get the discount. It's only when you're upgrading. And then also you can just directly take over a mobster speakeasy the same way as we just outlined before, but instead put a nightclub or a casino there. And of course, you'd have to pay the full cost. Okay, cool. So that's really easy. That's exactly like what we just saw. Now, the other actions below that, to the left, that would just let you play a operations card. To the right there, you would play a specific operations card that's a party operations card. and you'd get to increase one of your tracks. I don't know. I think that's pretty simple. Moving on. Okay, the one right next door, garage. Perfect. So whichever one you go to, you'll get to increase a track. Then on the left one there, you get to play a green card, a green operations card, fleet operations card. And you get a +2 to your movement, or to your range. +2 range bonus. And that's essentially how far your truck can move. I'll get to that in a second. Or if you go to the right guy, you just get to take a pick up and deliver action, which is the action you'll get to take when you play a green card. So either way, you'll get to take this action. So let's learn about picking up and delivering barrels. Right. So the idea here is that we're producing barrels at our operating stills, and those barrels are coming here. And remember, the number of barrels that we're making when we take that action is based on this track. But they're coming right here. With our truck, and we have one truck available, we have a second one here in waiting. If we can get our fleet marker up to this 3rd level, then we unlock that. Then you can have 2 trucks. But for now, we have one truck. We can have it start anywhere on the board, right? So we could have it start right with our stills. And then it can move a number of spaces based on where we are on this green track. You can see at the bottom here, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. So right now it can only move 2 spaces. Now during its movement, it can pick up barrels if it's at the stills district. So let's say we had some barrels here. We could put up to 2 in the truck, and then it can start moving. Let's say we had built something over here. It can move over there. It can move to an adjacent district. That's 1 move of its 2. And then let's say we had a building there. It can drop off 1 barrel at each building. At each operating building, it can drop off a single barrel. And then it could continue its movement. And it can move through these closed districts. That's fine. It can move back like that. So thematically, we're making the booze, we're making the liquor, and then we are delivering it to our speakeasies. And then once it's at our speakeasies, we'll be able to do a sell action in order to sell it at our speakeasy and make the money, right? Or our nightclub or our casinos. So that's the core action right there. We're learning what the core action of this game is. Make liquor, move it to our businesses, sell it at our businesses, make money. Boom. That's a lot more simple than most Lacerda games. Usually that core action in there is a little bit more complicated, has a few more steps involved. This one makes a lot of sense, so that's good. Okay, so now it's also noting that over here, Central Park is dividing Uptown. So 13 and 15 are not adjacent to 14 and 16. Fair enough. Okay, and here's a cool little thing as well. We can pick up rum not just from our stills, but also from these ships, these rum runner ships. So if you're at a port location with a ship, you can purchase them off the board, going from right to left. You just pay the cost below. You can buy 1 or 2, right? You could fill up your thing. And then once you've done that, you just move the ship to the next free port. So in this case, it would skip that one. It would go up here. And if there's no barrels on the ship, you just pay the amount shown below the leftmost empty barrel space and then just take the barrel from the supply. So you can basically always buy barrels from these ships. Interesting. And you can't deliver to your stills, obviously. Okay. Well, there we go. That is pretty reasonable. That makes sense. And so then if you go to that spot, you'll get a +2 movement. And that applies to both of your trucks. Whatever your movement is, you can use it for both of your trucks. You don't have to split it up. Hopefully this is making sense. I think this is actually pretty reasonable. I'm pleasantly surprised. All right, we're on a roll. What's next? City Hall. Oh, that's right there, to the left of the restaurant. So it looks like either person will let us get a family member and also hire as many goons as we want. Then the left guy will give us a leverage token and let us play 1 red card, one of the VIP cards. The person on the right will just let us take a get protection action, which again is the action that you get when you play a red card. So it kind of seems like in many of these cases, the left person is slightly more powerful than the right person. That's the gist I'm getting here. Okay, so let's talk about the get protection action. Again, this is when you take one of your family members that's in your VIP area, not from the supply. They have to be in the VIP area, and then you can take them and put them on your buildings. And in fact, you can send one or more. So you can send as many as you have available. Each building can only have one family member. So they're, the building's either protected or it's not, right? Same thing with the barrel. Each building either has a barrel or it doesn't. Now, the cost of sending your members to protect, it costs an amount of leverage according to your position on the turn order track. Oh, okay. So look, if we look at the turn order track there below, it shows that in first place, it costs 4 leverage for each family member you send out. And in second place, it only costs 2. So there's a little reward for being in second place. That's interesting. You have an amount of leverage to spend equal to the total of the values in the top right corner of each operation cards on your operations board. That's what this is for right here. Okay, so at the beginning of the game, we played this card, put it right here. It's showing that we have 2 leverage that we can then spend, or, that we can use. We don't have to spend the card. We just use it to put out people. So that's why we might want to play multiple cards here so we can get more leverage, right? Like here's another one. If we played that, we'd have 2 more. And then we'd have the 4 that we need to put someone out. Okay. This is making sense. And then you can also spend these tokens for 1, but those go away. Now, exactly why we need that protection, we know because of the police, right? If the police are there, you need that protection or that building is not operating. And so you can't do anything with it. And that's it. That's it for that spot. Now we're going to the commission. That's to the right of the restaurant. So here, because of the slash, we get either a helper card or increase one of our tracks. Okay, and both of these are in boxes, so it doesn't matter which one of these people we go to. They're exactly the same. So we can hire goons there as well, and then we can get an associate mobster. So this is how we get the associate mobster. If we were currently associated with one, we just put them back. Then we take one, bring them in. We place this in their district to show that we can't attack that district. You'd get any special ability that's shown on the mobster. Some of them have an ongoing special ability. Some just have a one-time thing that you get when you associate with them. Then you flip them over, and they'll be able to provide their strength if you pay them towards attacking things. Next up is the docks. Now, this one is a little bit more confusing. In a 1- and 2-player game, there's just one person to talk to. You get to play a stills card, so you get to play an orange card. And then that symbol is to hire a goon for free. Just one. And you have to put it on the next empty spot. You can't just put it in the most expensive spot. It has to go in the next empty spot. Then you can choose to attack one of the rum runner ships. And this is the part that's a little confusing. There's a lot that goes into this. I'm going to kind of brush over this because we don't want to get hung up on all of these rules for attacking these ships. This is sort of a later game kind of thing that you might want to do. But here's essentially how it works. The ship's defense is the highest value that's not covered by a barrel. So right now, for instance, for that top ship, the defense is 9. But if some barrels were to go away, suddenly the defense is up to 12. So you have to exceed that defense value, and you cannot use your associate mobster for this. This is like too big of a job to bring in outside people. You have to keep it entirely in-house. Now that might seem impossible, but this works a little differently than like attacking a speakeasy. What you want to do is you want to look at your family members that are on the docks. Each of those 3 docks corresponds to each of these 3 zones. So you can see that leftmost dock is for downtown. The middle one is for midtown, and then the right one is for uptown. And so you're going to look at the ship that you want to attack. So say we want to attack that top ship. It's right here, so it's in uptown. And so we look at how many family members we have on the Uptown dock. Right now we have 1. But let's say at some point we had added another one. So now we're going to take our attack strength, which right now is just 1, but maybe we had increased it. Let's say it was at 2. So we're going to take our attack strength and we're going to multiply it by the number of family members we have on the appropriate dock. 2 times 2, that's 4. Now you can also use other players' family members that are on that dock by paying them $1. And they can't refuse to not help. You pay them $1 and then you can use them as a multiplier. And then after you've done all that, you can discard goons to give you a +1. So right here, the most we could do is 5 by getting rid of this goon. Not nearly enough. If somehow we were able to manage to get to 10, then we could attack that and we would get that crate right there. Each crate would give us a certain amount of money based on some kind of multiplier, and each one's different. So for that top crate, the one that we were thinking of attacking, we'd get $3 times the strength of our associated mobster. So if we had that guy there with a strength of 3, we'd get $9. We would then flip it over and we'd have some sort of special ability that we'd get. I think I know what that one is, but I'll look it up. They're all in the back of the rule book, so you can just look it up. Yeah, that one is getting help from your associate costs 2 less. So that would be the special ability that we'd get. Very powerful. In addition to that, you'd also get to steal 1 barrel, and you can just instantly put it next to one of your operating buildings that doesn't have a barrel. If you don't have an operating building like that, then you can place it on your board as long as you have an operating stills. And then you'd get to just take one of the family members that's on that dock and put them into your VIP area. If you don't have room in your VIP area, then you'd get rid of them. They got killed during the raid. And then finally, you move that ship to the next port, always going in clockwise direction. And there you go. That's attacking a rum runner ship. Requires a lot of strength and, a lot of your family members on the docks there. But the reward is pretty great. Next, we're going to learn about the restaurant. This is a place where there's no limit to how many capos can go. Now, when you go here, you must perform the action. So you have to discard one of your operations cards. If you don't have operations cards, you can't come here. Right? So you have to be able to discard an operations card, and then you change turn order. If you want to move into second place there, you have to discard another operations card. After you've done that, you then can take 2 of these 3 actions. They have to be different. So you pick 2 of the 3 and you do them. Either play 1 operations card, play up to 2 city tiles from your board. This is kind of the main way, maybe the only way, as far as I can see, that you can play these tiles that you're picking up. And yeah, you can play up to 2 of them. That's all fine. Once you use them, you place them in the middle here on any space. So now they're available to be drawn in the future. And then the third different type of action you can take here is to cook up to 3 books. So all over the board, there are these different book spaces. And these are spaces where you can place your cooked books. But in order to place in those locations, you have to meet the requirement of that space. So for instance, going along the infamy track, there's a space right there at the 10 spot, at the 15, at the 20, and basically your infamy has to at least be that high or greater in order to put a cooked book there. Your reward is 10 or 15 or 20 money that goes directly into your safe. So that's what that symbol means there. That's not money that you get on hand, that's money that goes directly into your safe. And all of the cooked book spaces are like that. You're getting money that goes into your safe directly. We also have cooked book spaces down here. Each one of those will give you 20 into your safe, as well as a little special ability of moving one of your tracks. Those also give you that ability. You place the book there, you get to move one of your tracks as well. The requirement here has to do with the zone, right? Each one of these applies to the specific zone. This is saying that you have a protected nightclub. That's what that shield at the bottom means. It means that it's protected. You have one of your family members there. So this is saying if you have a protected nightclub and a protected casino in different districts. That's what the equal crossed out means. That's the requirement for putting a cooked book there and then getting 20 money. Here, it's a speakeasy and a nightclub, both protected in different districts. And here it's a speakeasy and a casino, both protected, but in the same district. There's also cooked book spaces up there at the top of the board. So under the docks, there's one. And the requirement there, you see there's a 1, 2, and a 3. That's the number of crates that you need to have to put a cooked book there. So in that leftmost one, if you have 1 crate, you could put a cooked book there, get 15 money. This one is showing 3, 5, or 7 protected buildings in different districts. So that's like 3 districts with at least 1 protected building, or 5 districts all over the board. Put a cooked book there, you get 20 money. The last space with the cookbooks is here in Central Park. I won't go over each of those, but they're all in the rule book. You meet the condition of the tile, you can put a cookbook there, and it looks like you're going to get a little reward, a little leverage, some family members, or a help card. So that's basically how the cooked books work. Okay, and lastly, we just have the park there at the far right. When you play to one of those persons of interest, you get to exchange spaces with a capo that's out there. It's got to be another player's capo, and it essentially lets you go to a spot that's already been taken. You would then get to talk to the person of interest that you switched with and take those actions. But the downside is the other player gets to take advantage of the park special ability, which is they get to either gain 1 leverage, gain 1 book, or gain 1 city tile. And when you gain a city tile, you take it from one of these right here. And that's basically it. That is all of the actions. So let's take a quick breather here and just think about what we just learned. So we know how to build buildings, right? We go there, we can build speakeasies. We go there, we can build nightclubs and casinos. Once we have those buildings out, we want to produce liquor. And the way we do that is by taking this action here, which is not directly on any of those people, right? The main way that we get to take that action is by playing one of these orange still operations cards. And there's several places up there where we can, play any operation card we want. At the dock, it actually lets you specifically play an orange operations card. Remember, at the end of every one of our actions, we get to take a new card. It's also possible that a help card might have that action on it. We have one right here, so at some point we'll want to go to the restaurant so we can play our city tiles. That would let us produce barrels. So you want to produce those barrels. They're going to be here at the still. You then want to do a pick up and deliver action, and we do have a spot there that lets us do that, either by playing a green operations card or by just taking the action. We deliver those barrels to our buildings, right? Then they sit next to our buildings, and then we want to sell them at our buildings, and that's this purple party action. Again, we can play a purple card to take that action, and right there, that's a spot that lets us specifically play a purple card. We also want to make sure that our buildings are protected, especially from the cops and stuff, which I imagine are going to be moving around, or, more cops are going to be showing up, or we want to protect them for some of these different actions down here that require protected buildings. And we have a spot there that lets us do that, right? We have to have these guys in our VIP area, and we're limited by this track here. So we want to be moving these tracks up. So it's all interconnected, but that's the basic loop. That's the loop that we want to be doing in general, that we want to be thinking about in order to make money. Everything else is kind of around it, right? But that's the main core. And it's not as complicated as I feared that it would be. I think this is making a lot of sense. For a Lacerda game, this is a bit streamlined, believe it or not. There's a lot of rules, right? Don't get me wrong, but they're streamlined rules. They're easy to understand. One of the great things about most Lacerda games is that you can actually use the theme to help you learn them. They tend to be relatively thematic. All right, now let's just go to final scoring. We're going to add up the money that we have on hand plus the money in our safe. And then we're going to get money for protected buildings. We get $10 for our protected speakeasies, 15 for our protected nightclubs, 20 if we have a protected still, and also 20 for each protected casino. So there we go. That's another reason to try to protect your buildings. And then the last thing that we get is we get a certain amount from our helper cards. So remember, when you play a helper card, you don't discard it, you keep it. And that's for this reason, because for each different bottle that you have, you can see at the bottom of the helper cards, they have little pictures of bottles. For each different bottle, you get a little money. So repeat bottles don't get you anything. It's just for a set of different bottles. You just take the money that's shown on the card, add that to your total, and the player with the most money wins. It's that simple. There's then a page with different tips and things like that. Don't really care to read that. There is a variant down here that talks about rebuilding your stills. So if you lose your stills, it goes back to your board rather than out of the game, and you can rebuild it. Okay, so that's a little variant that they recommend that's a little more forgiving for first-time players. Because I guess you could lose your stills, and then the only way that you could get liquor is from the boats. So that would be kind of brutal. So we'll play with that. Okay, so now I think we need to go back and we need to go over that phase that we skipped. The Lucky Luciano phase. So let's pretend we went through the first act. We took our 4 actions with our capos, right? Our solo opponent is going to also do that. We're going to go back and forth. And then when we're done with that, we now go to the Lucky Luciano phase. And the first part of that is the mob war. Okay, so what we do is we take the B stack of mobsters, shuffle them, and then one by one, we're going to go through, starting with the lower districts and going to the higher number districts. We're going to start putting mobsters in these spots with those tokens. And some of you might have noticed that from the members only setup that I did, I originally had my stills right here. But then I noticed that it was in with this token, and I thought that was probably a bad idea, so I moved it over here. And now I'm glad I did that, because this could be a bad thing. So essentially, we just do what we did as part of setup here. You would take the person, you would put it here in the second district. You would take a marker for their strength and put it right there. And then you would put some mobster speakeasies in those spaces. Now, the problem is, if one of our buildings is in there, like say we built to here, which we might want to do, that's going to start a mob war. And we're going to have to defend that building against the mob's attack. So whatever their strength is, and, the strengths of the mobsters go, higher and higher as you go along. So for Act 2, it's going to be between 6 and 8. And here we go. We can even take one here to show as a sort of an example. So let's say I had one of my guys in there. And now this guy comes in here. He has a strength 6, right? But it's a +2 for a mob war. So he's actually doing this mob war at an 8. Now we just need to match it because we're defending. So we would have to come up with 8 strength. And once again, you get your strength the same way as we've been talking about, right? Your strength from here, spending goons, paying your associate mobster. Seems very useful to have one. If you can't defend yourself, you lose whatever building is there, and it just goes out of the game. You don't get it back. Again, we have that stills variant that we can play with, so you could get your stills back, but none of the other buildings. If you do defend them, then they don't put anything there. And if somehow, we had buildings in both, and we were able to defend against both attacks, and they didn't get to put any buildings in there, then they don't even go on the board. We just get rid of them. But in this case, we might defend there, and then they put a building here, right? That's fine. We can do that. We would then prepare for the next mob war with those mob tokens that are up there on the time track. So it looks like at the end of Act 1, 2 more are going to come out. You just flip them over, see what district, and place it in that district. Then it looks like at the end of Act 2, there's going to be 3 that come out. And then that's it. At least you'll have some time to prepare, right? You'll see that a mob war is going to be happening at the end of the round. You'll have some actions to build up strength and protect your buildings. Okay, then the cops patrol Manhattan. And this is simple. You just put cop tokens out where these are, and then you bring in the new cops. That's it. That's it. And remember, cops just mean that you need to have a family member at a building to keep it operational. Then we go to payout zone control. So for each zone, and you can see we have a little thing for each zone, you're going to go through the districts, and you're going to see which player has the best building in that district. Now, there's a hierarchy of buildings, and the way it works is first, protected buildings, so buildings with family members, are the best. So protected casino is number 1, protected nightclub, protected speakeasy, and then protected stills. Okay? After that, it goes unprotected casino, unprotected nightclub, unprotected speakeasy, unprotected stills. But also remember, they have to be operating. So if it's not operating, it doesn't even count as have a building being there, right? That's the golden rule. It has to be operating. At the very, very bottom is a mobster speakeasy. So in this case, right, all there is mobster speakeasy in 1. So boom. District 1 is controlled by the mobsters. In this case, in 4, we have it, and yellow's not here. But obviously, we would have more buildings out. It doesn't matter how many buildings you have. It just matters about being the best. If there's a tie, then you both get it. So you're going to sort of mark that here, and then you're just going to score points based on the number of districts that you control. And so over here for downtown, whoever has the most would get 30, second 20, third 10. Now in our case, we're tied right at this moment. So we would just get 20. You always get the lower amount. And you have to at least control 1 district in order to get any money, right? So yellow at this point would get nothing for this. They wouldn't get 10 for being in third. They get nothing because they don't even control 1 district. And we're going to do that for each one of the zones. Now, the money you're getting is going straight into your safe, right? This is safe money, not pocket money. And there you go. Would you believe it? That is basically the end of the rules. Obviously, in the rule book, they have detailed breakdowns of every one of these different tiles and stuff. So if you're not sure what a tile does, you can just look back there and get an exact description. All that's left for us to do is to look at the solo opponent and see how they work. But otherwise, we've done it. We have gone through the rules, and I got to tell you, this is surprisingly straightforward for this heavy of a game. I'm kind of in shock. I feel like I have a really great understanding and grasp of how this works. So long as the solo opponent isn't too complicated, this is really going to be one of the easier to grasp Lacerdas that I've encountered. So let's go check out that solo opponent. Okay, so it says here that Joe, the solo opponent, plays by the 2-player rules with the following exceptions. I might just read these. Joe doesn't play or discard operations card, gain the benefit of helper cards, or gain the benefit of any city tiles. Joe does not gain or hire goons or take associates, as he always has the strength needed to defend buildings, take over, or attack the rum runners. We have a supremely cheating AI here, which I don't mind. I know some people have a real problem with sometimes, which I think is crazy. I don't mind this at all. Joe always gains cash and never pays for buildings or barrels. Joe only spends money to defend from mobster attacks during the mob war. In that case, he spends money equal to the mob war strength of the mobster for each building he defends. If he does not have enough, he spends what he has. Okay, so he always defends, but during a mob war, it's going to cost him a little bit of money. If Joe's capo is sent to the park, he receives $5. All right. I see. So if we go to the park and we switch his capo and he goes to the park, rather than taking those other things, he's just going to get $5. Makes sense. When Joe visits the restaurant, he will move his turn order marker to the lower row, placing first on the lowest leverage position if possible. If not, then first place. When turn order changes, Joe gains $5 for each of his operating casinos at the end of round, just like we would. All right, so he wants to be in second place if possible. When taking Joe's actions, and there is a tie that is not resolved by the rules, always choose the lowest numbered district. If Joe is unable to take an action from his card, he just passes. And lastly, Joe places family members at the specified dock left to right, top to bottom. None of that is surprising or difficult. Joe's operations are always limited by the operations levels on his operations board. Okay, so these levels do matter. That is going to affect his actions. Like a player, the same rules apply to Joe for production, pickup from the stills, delivering barrels, selling, Luciano payouts, and scoring. Joe's buildings must be operating. Okay, so he's mostly behaving like a real player, except for when it comes to strength, right? He always has the strength to defend an attack. During a mob war, it costs him money, but he's not going to be losing buildings because of his strength. That's why he doesn't even have the strength marker here. All right, so on Joe's turn, we flip the top card of his action deck. We put that together during setup of the previous video, so don't worry about that. It explains it in the rules, how to set up his deck. We're playing on the easiest difficulty level, and so we set up his deck according to that. I'm going to take a card from one that we discarded just to look and see what the card looks like. So this is what his action cards look like. So we're going to flip one of those over. I see. And he's going to try to talk to the person on the left if possible. If not, then the person on the right. If both spaces are blocked by your capos, then you would move the leftmost capo of ours to the park, and then he would go there. And then we would get the park bonus. If all spaces are blocked by Joe's capos, then we would just draw a new card. And we would shuffle that card back under the deck. And then when he takes these actions, we ignore the actions of the locations. Instead, we do the actions that are on the card instead. And now it shows each different action and how he does it a little bit differently. So some of them are going to be the same, but some of them will be a little bit different. So for instance, delivering barrels, Joe doesn't use trucks, and he can deliver anywhere on the main board, right? His number of deliveries are limited by his track. He's going to first take barrels from his stills, and then if he still needs more, he'll take it from the cheapest ship. And then he's going to deliver to his higher value buildings first. So first casinos, then nightclubs, then speakeasies. Selling barrels is the same thing. It's limited by the tracks. The price is based on the infamy track, just like us. And he sells from his highest valued operating buildings first. Okay, so when he's placing buildings, he follows the normal rules, but he doesn't gain the benefit of the city tile. He just places it on his board. He never pays for his buildings, and he never upgrades his buildings. So to determine where he's going to place, he draws from this district deck. Right? That's going to have some different districts on it, and if he's able to play in that location, then you do it. If not, you draw another one. And you keep drawing until you find a place where he's able to play. If while you're drawing those cards, you come across a card that has a family member on it, then you're going to send a family member from his supply to the docks. But you only do that once. So if you keep flipping and you see more family member icons, you only do that once per turn. Similarly, if you're flipping and you find a district card that has a helper card on it, he'll take the most valuable one of a type that he doesn't have, like of a bottle that type that he doesn't have, because he's also making a set with those. If he has all the bottle types, then you just take the most valuable one. And again, if you see multiple on these cards, you only do that once per turn. And then he'll always place going from left to right, top to bottom in the district. Now, when getting protection, the number that he can spend is limited by his track again. He ignores leverage. That's not a thing for him. He can just do it. And he'll always send his members to buildings and districts with cops first. Then if he has a choice, he'll send them to buildings with barrels, and then it'll be the higher value buildings. If there's still a tie, then he's going to do buildings in uptown, then downtown, and then midtown. That's the order that he would do that in. Again, that makes sense. That's what we would do as well. Okay, there's then rules here for ambushing a rum runner ship. So we would pay him the $1 to use his people, just like, you would for a regular player. He'll also pay us $1 from the bank if he uses our family members. Oh, and he'll pay us $1 for each one, whether he uses it or not. So we get $1 just for being there. And that's because he doesn't have to use our people because he always has enough strength, right? But they're going to pretend like he's using our people. In fact, he doesn't even need to have family members on the docks in order to successfully attack one of these rum runner ships. He can just do it. He's always going to attack the ship with the most barrels. And if it's a tie, he always attacks the ship in the lowest numbered district. And then he just gains money. In Act 1, he gains 5. In Act 2, he gains 10. And in Acts 3 and 4, he gains 15. And he'll place the crate tile on his operations board and move a barrel from the attack ship next to one of his highest valued operating buildings without a barrel. And then he'll return one of his family members, if any, from the docks of the attack ship, just straight to his supply. And then you move the ship as normal. All right. So again, not a million miles off what you would do with a normal player. It's just that they always have the strength. And then his books are always available to cook. And he'll attempt to place his books, but he has to have the goals achieved. So he's not cheating here. And then there's an order that he's going to go in. So he's going to go to the zone goals first. He'll then go to City Hall, then the docks, then the infamy track. And for each one of those, he'll gain a certain amount. He's basically just gaining the money. When he gains an operation level for some of these, he'll increase the lowest operation level that he has from left to right, top to bottom. And it says if Joe places less than 3 books on the above spaces, he places 1 book and only 1 at the leftmost available space of Central Park. He ignores the goal and any benefits, but gains $10. So he'll either place out 3 cooked books in those other areas, or he'll place out less than 3 and then 1 on the leftmost in Central Park and get $10. But basically ignoring the goal. And that's it. Look at that. Final scoring. You and Joe score the same as you would for a 2-player game. Joe adds $1 to his score for each city tile on his operations board. And then to win the game, you have to have more money than Joe. That is surprisingly simple. The word that keeps coming to mind for me is straightforward. It's a lot, don't get me wrong. This is still a heavy game. This is still a Lacerda game. But in comparison, this is relatively straightforward and easy to grasp. Now, we haven't played it yet, so we don't know yet, but I am very excited. I thought learning those rules were going to be way more difficult. But I honestly feel ready to go, ready to tackle a full learning game. And that's exactly what I'm going to do in the next video. The next video is going to be a little bit more like my typical fare, so hopefully you'll join me for that one. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. I'd like to thank all of the financial supporters of Totally Tabled, including the totally radical Dr. Casey, Hextra, Mitch Fisher, John Kohler, Scott Myers, and Jay Satterwhite, as well as the totally bodacious Jeremy Robertson. If you're interested in becoming a member, you can join on YouTube or my Patreon at www.patreon.com/totallytabled. You'll gain access to my new exclusive podcast, Table Talk, as well as unboxing videos and whatever extra stuff I come up with. As always, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.